And welcome back to another episode of the Ball Watchers podcast. I am your host, Evan Bloost, alongside my co-host, Joseph Muto. Joseph, how are you doing today?
I feel great, man. How are you?
Feeling good.
Yeah.
1 week closer to the end of the
Almost
NFL
there.
season, Joseph. I mean, it's bittersweet,
Yeah.
It's exciting, very exciting especially for me, who has
hmm
a team, a very special team in the Super Bowl, but just in general, it's exciting putting a cap on this season. This was one of the weirder seasons. I mean, you finally get rid of some of these, like, I don't know, storylines that have been around for years and
Yes.
years and years at this
hmm
point. I mean, there's no Chiefs. I guess there's the Patriots, but it's such a different team that
Yeah.
it doesn't really count. So it's a brand new day. It's a brand
Yeah.
new season, and it's exciting to come to the end here. I mean, I'm excited to get into the draft as well afterwards,
Me
but at
too.
the same time, it is sad that after this Sunday we won't be able to watch an NFL game for like 6 months almost.
Yeah. This was my favorite season. One of, if not the best season of the NFL that I've watched. Like, there was so much neutrality. Like, everyone had a shot this year, and I love that. I feel like we've been craving that for the longest time. But yeah, it's gonna be sad that the off season is longer than the actual season, so you're just craving it. Like in that May, June, July stretch, you're like, where is my
Yeah.
football? It's yeah, it's pretty, but it's pretty bittersweet. It's been a great season.
Yeah. Once the like hockey and football ends, there's just nothing. And I
Yeah,
mean, it's like baseball's on, but at the same time you're like it's hard to watch baseball in the middle of like June.
yeah.
It's just like this game, it's like does not matter
hmm
at all. So, and I mean, it's the same with like hockey and stuff too, basketball as well, where it's like these regular
Yeah.
season games like do not matter. So it's like who cares?
hmm
But
hmm
let's get into it here. We're going to start off with a bit of coaching news. Their last two open head coaching jobs have been filled. And then we, of course, are going to get into the Super Bowl preview
hmm
because that's why we're here ultimately. But we're going to cover a few things first. And starting off with the Raiders, who have reportedly hired Clint Kubiak as their next head coach. He's currently the offensive coordinator of Seattle. So he does have another game that he needs to play before this is official. But all the reporting looks to him being hired as the next coach of the Raiders.
Yeah, it's a beautiful pairing. I had this pairing a couple weeks ago when we made predictions, and I just think it like the fit makes sense. I thought Clint Kubiak should have been a head coach last year, but his time with New Orleans, like it was only that 2 week stretch, and then people forgot about his name. So he makes a name in Seattle, and he just makes Sam Darnold look so functional in this offense. And I don't want to take away from Darnold, but at the same time, like you just made such a basic like package of offensive plays, and you like used like branched it out into like some more exotic place. So you had the firm foundation and then you just build off of it with some luxury pieces. And I think that's exactly what you need, especially with a rookie quarterback coming in there. Like you create the pedigree with this is my first time too, bro, as a head coach, and I'm gonna help you along and we're gonna do this journey together. And it's perfect. Like the Raiders are such a terrible organization, maybe not from like a front office perspective, but more so of just like the talent around the team. So you have to start with the quarterback first. That's what they're doing with the first overall pick. And Mendoza's going to come in there. He is the complete package, but he has no weapons at his disposal. I mean, I think this is a perfect pairing where you just bring in a guy who's going to get back to basics. As Clint Kubiak with the head coach, there's a lot of pressure to play in Las Vegas and the market that it presents itself with. But you have two guys with basically nothing to lose, and they were the first overall pick for a reason. So expectations are minimal if there are any. So I think it's perfect, and I think they can make some noise. This is an extremely tough division, but if you can get Mendoza right and get him right in his first rookie year, a lot of teams will just wait till like the first, second, or third year to bring in a guy like Kubiak. You're doing it year one, and I think you can build something for like the next generation of Raider football. So I absolutely love it.
I hate this from a Seattle angle just
Mm-hmm.
because you lose a very good and very gifted offensive coordinator. But for the Raiders, I agree. This is a great hire. It's a really weird move, or it's just kind of funny because Pete Carroll also was their last head coach. So
Yes.
just like funneling guys from Seattle, again, very different regimes, but I really like this move. I think that in addition to what you said about the pass game, I mean, I think this is a guy who's going to be great for Ashton Genty. I mean, at times this season, Seattle obviously has struggled to run the football, but they never gave up on it. And regardless of that, they were still effective when they needed to be in the run game. I think that especially when you look at the goal line, they had a lot of rushing touchdowns. You look at a guy like Zach Charbonnet, and I mean, it's just you already have Ashton Genty, who's a first round pick there, and I think that a guy like Kubiak can come in there and really just like take him to the next level because he really had a very quiet season this year. I think there were definitely games where he lit it up, but overall, I think people kind of forgot about him after the first few weeks just because of how disastrous this Raiders team was overall, especially just on offense in general. But there's going to be some struggles because while the Seahawks offensive line definitely isn't a top 10 offensive line in the league by any means, I would say it's above average, and the Raiders' offensive line was an absolute disaster this year. And I think that that's something that's going to be a bit of a struggle for a guy like Kubiak, who I think relies a lot on just play action passing and things of that nature to really make his offense go running the football. And if your running attack is completely neutralized and you can't throw the play action, I think it really can hamstring what you're doing. But at the same time, that's just like that's gonna be the case for any coordinator or head coach that comes in here. So I think that that's just something they're gonna have to deal with. But at the same time, I think that a guy like Kubiak, there's weapons. I mean, if you assume Fernando Mendoza is their first overall pick, you have Brock Bowers, you have Ashton Genty, like you have a foundation, and I think that Kubiak's a guy who can get the most out of that offense. And again, I mean, I've talked about this a bunch with other coaches, but he comes from that Mike McDonald tree, and that's one of the most valuable defensive trees that you can come from right now. So I think that there's definitely a chance to get a Mike McDonald Ravens type of guy in that coordinator room, and that could really help with the defense as well. So I agree. Very good hire, a young guy who can come in and really just build something in Las Vegas.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to see what the Tom Brady like control situation is because it does seem like he's a guy who's very involved and maybe rightfully so just because he was a former player. It makes more sense than like these guys who made a bunch of money in like commercial real estate trying to get involved. But at the same time, I think that it could be interesting to see how much Brady sticking his nose in has an impact on what the Raiders end up doing just in general.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And the effect that he has on Mendoza, because, I mean, it's clearly the first pick in the draft, and he's going to be rightfully so the number one overall pick. But they're very similar in their play style, I find. I'm not comparing Mendoza to Brady, but, like, I just see the intangibles a little bit, and I want to see how he progresses from that standpoint as well.
Right. But and the other thing is just like decision wise, like
Mm-hmm.
is Kubiak going to be able to bring in his guys? Is Brady going to kind of strong arm him
Mm-hmm.
in ways? And just even the GM as well. Like, is the GM going to be able to make the decisions he wants to make? I don't know. I'm curious to see how that goes, but that will be something we can talk about a lot more in the off season. The other head coaching position here that was taken was the Arizona Cardinals. They hire Mike LaFleur, the former Rams offensive coordinator, as their next head coach. This was a job. I mean, the Raiders and the Cardinals really two jobs that really like went under the radar until they hired someone. There wasn't a lot of news around these two teams
Yeah,
beforehand.
this is like a perfect Cardinals hire. I picked Matt Nagy because nobody wanted him, and I don't think like LaFleur was on anyone's radar just because like he's under Sean McVay, and Sean McVay is calling the shots for the offense for the Rams. So like it's almost like you like shy away. It almost reminded me of like Eric Bieniemy couldn't get a head coaching job even though everyone knew he was a great offensive coordinator, but because he was under Andy Reid and Andy Reid was calling the shots for the offense, no one looked at him, and that's how I kind of saw LaFleur. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for him to make a name out of himself and actually just take away from the Sean McVay tree. But I think this is the best that the Cardinals could do. I mean, you take away from that tree, you don't really have a lot of options at your disposal because you don't have a lot of talent around you and you don't have a franchise quarterback. So, I mean, maybe you can salvage Kyler Murray in this awful contract. He has not lived up to it basically his entire career. It's just tough to get like a sought after name into your building as a head coach. So I think this was probably the best option available to them, but it's not like a hire that's going to wow you. So the options were very limited. I think they got it right with the hire, but like what else are you supposed to do as the Cardinals? It's not a hire that really moves the needle, and you didn't expect that with the team who's really going to struggle and I think going to be a bottom feeder yet again this year. So it's going to be tough, but hopefully they can build something around LaFleur, and maybe if they do bring in a new young quarterback within the next couple of years, you can start to see this team flourish a little bit, but it's going to be a slow burn for the Cardinals, and I don't expect much, if at all, from them this year.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird move. I mean, the Sean McVay tree of coaches is incredibly hit or miss. I mean, you have guys like a Kevin O'Connell who really have gone out and made a name for themselves at head coach and are like highly considered. But then you also have guys like Brandon Staley, Raheem Morris, and they have really not made a name for themselves in the coaching ranks here. And maybe some of that is just the fact that they're defensive guys. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what happens here. Mike LaFleur was a guy who wasn't even the most hyped up guy on that coaching staff for like head coaching jobs. I mean, Chris Shula, and then oh my god, I'm completely blanking on his name, but I think it was a passing game coordinator too. Nate, oh my god, Nate Shieldhouse, who I believe will be the offensive coordinator for the Rams next season. But even he, I feel like, was getting more hype than Mike LaFleur for these jobs. So I really don't know. And I guess, I mean, Matt LaFleur, I think, was under McVay as well.
Yes.
So it's just like, I don't know. The hit rate seems to be very 50-50. If you're from the offensive side of the ball, it does seem to be a bit higher. So it could really work out. But I think you're totally right. I think that two things. One, I think that I would have leaned into the defense because they've just put so many assets into that defense in the last little bit that I almost would have gone with a defensive guy and just become like a defensive center team. And I know that you had Jonathan Gannon there and he was a defensive guy and it didn't work out. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you shouldn't hire another defensive guy. And I think that bringing someone in, even like a Chris Shula potentially, or one of these other defensive coordinators to be the next head coach makes a lot more sense to just where you've spent your resources the last little bit and make that unit the best it can be, and then just kind of let the offense has a lot that it needs to figure out. And I think that bringing in an offensive head coach at this point is still going to be, it's going to be a long road to make that offense that like what it needs to be in a lot of ways, especially at the quarterback position. So I don't know. It would have made a lot of sense to bring someone in on the defensive side. But as for Mike LaFleur, I think that just bringing in a guy from that McVay tree where they do have a really big run first philosophy and using the run to set up the pass, I think that it works really well for this team the way it's set up currently. They're a team who, I mean, they had a lot of injuries at running back, but a guy like James Conner, I'm sure they'll draft someone as well, could have a big role, and we've seen them produce. You also have weapons like a Trey McBride. You need someone, I think, to really make Marvin Harrison hit that next level. So I do see the like appeal and logic of getting an offensive guy, but it just feels like Kyler Murray's put them in such a tough situation offensively where this offense is probably going to be bad no matter what next year.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. I don't trust Kyler, and no one should at this point.
Yeah, he has not shown anything in the last little bit to really give you any faith in him. And then it's like, what are the Cardinals don't have a high enough draft pick where they're really going to be in the market for a quarterback.
No.
And I mean, outside of Mendoza, there's not really any options in the first round at quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And then it's just like, can you rely on the run game to completely power this offense? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough.
Yeah. All right, there's a couple interesting coordinator moves here, Joseph. We don't have to dive too deep into them, but Mike McDaniel was hired as the offensive coordinator in Los Angeles, which I think was a huge move. He gets to join Justin Herbert and possibly rehab his image a bit.
Yeah, that was. I think it's a perfect hire just because Mike McDaniels is like he's priding himself on the run game, and you come from a guy with Jim Harbaugh who can show you how to be a leader. And I don't think anyone questioned really McDaniel's ability to coach the offense. It's just like coach a football team, and like the press conferences were extremely shaky. You have Tua who's in a very bad situation, and like it was just a toxic environment. So you move on from that and you do your job as a coordinator, And I thought the run packages that McDaniels presented with Devon Achane and a limited offensive line was extremely impressive. So he knows how to do it. Hopefully you get this offensive line back healthy and you can get a Marion Hampton to propel to that next level, which he wanted to do, but he got injured this season and then only came back in the second half. So I think that's a guy who's really going to flourish from this. And you just allow Justin Herbert to be Justin Herbert. Like, no one's, questioning Justin Herbert's ability, and you don't bring in McDaniels to, like, shore up the passing game. It's just like, yeah, the offensive line was injured and terrible, and the wide receivers just couldn't get open for Herbert. So it's not a Herbert issue. To me, it's more of a run game issue. If defenses can respect the run game of the Chargers, then you just let Justin Herbert go to work and absolutely eat. So I think it's unbelievable that he could be the Chargers offensive coordinator, work under Jim Harbaugh. And, I mean, this is way better than Greg Roman, so this is going to be a huge upgrade, and I think the Chargers are going to be for real, and we'll see what happens in the postseason, and hopefully they can do it by then.
Yeah, I agree. I love this. And I think you talked about the run game, but even in the pass game, I think that, McDaniel was praised very early in his tenure with Miami for doing what he did with a guy like Tua, who definitely was limited in some areas. And now he has the opportunity to work with a guy like Justin Herbert, and he's really going to be able to take those breaks off his offense, I think. And, obviously you don't have a Tyreek Hill level receiver there, but you have a guy like Quentin Johnson, who's a downfield burner. You have an underneath threat in Ladd McConkey. Like, I think there's a lot of pieces in that passing game that weren't used to their, well, Quentin Johnson was, but like a Ladd McConkey really wasn't used to his maximum ability, I thought, last season. So I think that McDaniel in the pass game, especially if he can get that run game cooking, is going to be able to just light it up with Herbert as kind of his weapon there. So I really love the hire as well. I think that it's one of those surprising ones where you didn't really expect McDaniel to end up with a guy like Harbaugh, who very much is loyal to his tree, it seems. But, I think it's a great move. And this makes the Chargers a lot better, in my opinion, going into next season.
Yeah. And I completely forgot. I was just thinking about it now, but we missed the head coach in Todd Monken to the Browns.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. How did that slipped? I think that happened right after we recorded last week, pretty much.
And I don't
totally
even care
forgot.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, let's get to that then. Todd Monken, we forgot a very forgettable hire, as you can see. But for me, I think that the biggest, this is, in my opinion, not a good hire. And I understand. I think that a lot of it had to do, to be honest, with the fact that I don't think anyone wanted to coach the Browns.
No.
But to lose Jim Schwartz to hire Todd Monken, I think, is really not worth it, in my opinion. At that point, you should have just hired Jim Schwartz, because that defense was great the last few seasons under him. And it's really the only bright spot that you have. And I think that this offense is so far from being competent anyways that bringing in a guy like Monken doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those hires where no one else was going to hire Monken, and this is his only chance. So he gets the job, but at the expense of Jim Schwartz, it just doesn't seem worth it to me.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It's just a stupid hire. Even to go beyond that, like, why would you get rid of Stefanski if you're going to bring in Todd Monken?
Exactly.
Like Stefanski prided himself on running the football, and he did it effectively, especially with the pieces around him. Even Judkins had a really good start to the season, then kind of fizzled out towards the end. But, like, I don't know, Monken didn't run the football with Derrick Henry, and he just relied on Lamar Jackson to be athletic. Do you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson in Cleveland? Hell no, you don't. Like, I don't understand what they're trying to do in Cleveland. Like, you should have 100% kept Jim Schwartz, and I understand your options were limited and you're trying to change the culture, but Monken, to me, like, he had some success at the collegiate level, and then you take the opportunity to be the Ravens offensive coordinator, and you have, like, superstar firepower, and you barely did anything with it, and yet that gets you promoted to be a head coach in the NFL. So extremely questionable hire. I would have kept Schwartz, made sure your defense is intact, and bring in someone to be your offensive coordinator. I just don't think Todd Monken is the guy, and I don't know how he's going to be setting the culture, but there's not much culture to work with in Cleveland, and I don't think Todd Monken's going to move the needle at all. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what he brings as a coach, to be honest.
No.
So I don't know. It's just an unimpressive hire. I would have rather have just kept Jim Schwartz, or like you said, kept Kevin Stefanski. But on the Jim Schwartz front, someone is getting a very, very good defensive coordinator. So I don't know. One of these, I think it'll be one of these teams who just hired a head coach.
Yeah.
I could see him pairing up with a younger guy just to like kind of show his stuff to get maybe a bit of a better look at a head coaching job in the future. But like, I don't know, man. It's just like I don't even care about Cleveland at this point
No.
because
Mm-mm.
I mean, what are you gonna do unless something insane happens? But like, they're so strung, like hamstrung with the cap right now. Like they can't make big moves and you're basically just waiting until this Deshaun Watson contract ends to do
Yeah.
anything. So,
Mhm.
like, I don't know. See you in 3 years.
See you in 3 years.
essentially, or 2 years, whatever it is, until Deshaun Watson's gone.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Absolute snooze fest, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But before we bore you with too much more about Todd Monken to the Cleveland Browns, we could go on with that for hours if you wanted, but we won't. Let's
No.
move on to the Super Bowl, the real reason we are
Yes.
here today. A very exciting day. Only what 6 days from now, we
Yeah,
will have
wow.
Seattle facing off against the New England Patriots
Mhm.
in Super Bowl. I don't even
60.
know. 60, sure. Super Bowl 60, and it will be played in the great state of California
Yes.
in San Francisco at Levi Stadium, an outdoor Super Bowl. I'm excited for that. We haven't. I guess the Hard Rock. Hard Rock's a weird one. Doesn't feel outdoors, but we get an outdoor Super Bowl, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very thrilled about this matchup. I think this is. I mean, honestly, when it came down to the AFC Championship, if Bo Nix hadn't got injured, I feel like any of those matchups would have been fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can't go wrong, in my opinion. But we're going to go through a bit of a preview of each team. So we've got some questions that we're going to ask about each team. And then we're going to give you our X factors and some predictions for the game, just as we've done, I think, the last 2 years now. So same format as we've done before here. And we're going to start it off with Seattle. We've got a few burning questions here. And the first one I have is with JSN being covered by Christian Gonzalez. Obviously, you can't guarantee he'll be blanketed, but who will step up in the passing game in those situations for Seattle?
Kenneth Walker, I guess. If I had to pick an answer, it's got to be JSN. I don't trust any other pass catcher for the Seattle Seahawks. Like Cooper Kupp has been like a non-factor basically all year, and like a number two, maybe Torrey Horton had it like at the beginning of the year, and
He
AJ
got injured, though.
exactly, and then no one's really stepped up as that role. Like Jake Bobo's catching touchdowns in the NFC Championship game, and I'm like, who really is the number two wide receiver? So to me, it's got to be Jackson Smith and Jigba. He has to find a way. Has to find a way. I'll get into it a little bit later on in the show, but like he has to get open for this team. He is their entire pass catching team. I think he had like 50% of the passing yards in this offense throughout the entirety of the year, and it's like
Even in the NFC Championship.
yeah, basically he had like 150 yards, and then number two was Cooper Kupp with like 35 or something like that. So it's got to be him. Like there's no other option. Kenneth Walker has to be a big pass catcher out of the backfield. Kubiak's going to play a lot of pass screens with the left guard and left tackle, Charles Cross and Gray Zabel over there, pulling out and really just filling lanes for Kenneth Walker in the passing attack. But it's got to be Jackson Smith and Jigba. There is not a number two guy who is going to step up in this big-time situation, especially against a great defense that the Patriots present. So there's going to be matchups with an elite corner and elite wide receiver. You have to win that. If you're the best wide receiver in football, which you have been this year, you have to make plays. You have to go over 100 yards in this game, or else this team is not going to be what it has been all season, especially offensively. So it's got to be in Jigba. There is no number two option, and he has to have a massive game if they want to win this game.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that with this question, I just wanted to talk about some of those secondary passing options, but and just the fact that Seattle's made it this far without really any like high level receiving outside of JSN. But I really think he will be able to make an impact on Christian Gonzalez. He's just such a smooth route runner. He'll find a way to get open. But I really think that because that's such a like high level matchup, you're gonna need someone else. And I mean, I honestly look to AJ Barner. I think that specifically against this Patriots defense, they do not have a linebacker who's really like a pass coverage guy. Like a Robert Spillane is 100% like a downhill run stopping kind of linebacker. Caden Ellis or is it Christian? Whatever Ellis is on the Patriots is also a guy who's not like a known pass coverage linebacker. Like I think that Darnold and like is gonna have to get it to these tight ends who are going to exploit this zone. Elijah Arroyo is also back, so they have another kind of athletic tight end who's an option in the receiving game. Like I think that that's going to be the biggest thing is getting it to these tight ends because they've been very good Seattle at getting it to the tight ends in the red zone, but they're going to have to use these guys more just getting into that middle of the field and like finding the soft spot in the zones between these linebackers. And I think that the tight ends winning those one-on-one matchups is going to be critical. Specifically, AJ Barner, who I think is a guy who doesn't get targeted a lot, but I think makes a lot of plays with the ball in his hands. All right, next question here for Seattle. Can Seattle keep up their high level of rush attack for one more week? I mean, Kenneth Walker, the last 2 weeks, I think, has gone over 100 yards. He's been really exactly what Seattle's needed in this time. I mean, they just were able to continuously pound the ball on the ground against the 49ers. And when it came down to the wire at the end of the game against the Rams, they were able to get yards on the ground and chew the clock against the Rams. So, like this rush attack, especially without Charbonnet now, falls all on Kenneth Walker, but it's been at a very high level throughout the playoffs so far.
Yeah, the playoffs have been incredible for Seattle running the football, but to me, I think it ends at the Super Bowl. I think the Patriots defense, what they present, especially up the middle, they are going to shut down the A and B gaps. And when Kenneth Walker goes outside, to me, he gets tackled for losses way too much, just trying to make a big play out of every single play. And I think that the rushing attack is really going to take a step back. I mean, the Patriots, throughout this entirety of the playoffs, have shut down every single rushing attack that the Chargers, the Texans, and the Broncos have presented themselves. And those are three teams that are not good at rushing the football in their own right. But at the same time, like, I think Seattle got maybe a little bit lucky with the matchups with the 49ers and the Rams not being able to stop the run basically all year. So I want to trust Seattle, and what they've done over the last 2 weeks has been extremely surprising and effective running the football, and it's why they've blown out both the 49ers and the Rams. But I think the Patriots present such a great defense, especially with their linebackers. Like you said, Spillane is running down the middle of the field, getting those tackles for losses on those running backs. He's a downhill linebacker, and I just think that Seattle doesn't really have an answer for that. So I think the Patriots match up better in the run game, and I don't think that Seattle will find their success rushing the football this game.
Interesting. I mean, I'm curious. I really don't know. I think that, like you said, especially up the middle, I think it's going to be really tough sledding, but I really think they need to get that outside run game going. And Kenneth Walker is just such an athlete where he can burn angles, he can get to the edge. And if they can keep that up, that's going to be huge. And I think they will, especially on outside runs. Like if they can develop that outside running game, get to the edges, it's going to spread the defense out. You can start exploiting the middle of the field, and it just brings more people closer to the line of scrimmage and gives Darnold a bit more room to work in the passing game. So I think it's critical that they do keep the run game up. I feel like the outside run game is where they're going to be able to thrive in this game. But I really think Seattle's upgraded this run game. This team has just come together, especially along that offensive line. They've luckily been very healthy this year, but they have a lot of great players there. Charles Cross, Gray Zabel, Abe Lucas are kind of their top three there. And I think that those guys are just going to have to push around the people in front of them. And I mean, I think at least at the tackle position, Seattle has the edge over those edge rushers. So I think in the run game, Charles Cross, Abe Lucas are going to win those battles. Kenneth Walker is going to be able to get to the edge, and he just has to capitalize on that. And Seattle's offense has to capitalize on that because I think that the biggest thing for me in this game is just keeping the ball out of Drake May's hands because he's a guy who can change the game. And I think that while Seattle does have a good defense, it's better to be in control of the football. All right. Next question here. Oh, man. What is the most important part of Seattle's defensive game planning to shut down the Patriots?
I think securing the edges. As soon as Travion Henderson breaks out a big run, I think the Patriots easily win this game. And so you know that you're strong up the middle with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy. But can these edges not break contain and have Drake May running the football as well as Travion Henderson hitting the C gap and hitting a 60-yard touchdown. Like, that is the number one thing that you can't do. And Seattle's been great at that all year. Their edge presence, they really didn't address it in the offseason, but those players like Boye Mafe, Uchenna Nwosu, like, those guys have stepped up in a big-time way, pass rushing as well as shutting down the run. So I think they've done a great job of that, and I think they need to keep it consistent because I think Drake May is going to try and play hero ball, and it might result in a couple turnovers. They are going to give up nothing over the top and everything, just all the dump offs and the underneath stuff to Stephon Diggs. So I think if they run the football, that's going to open up the secondary to like play more aggressive, and then Drake May is going to hit him for a bomb. So you have to secure the edges with Drake May's legs as well as Travion Henderson's legs. That's the number one thing to me. Set the edge presence. You've done it all year. So do it for one more game, and I think that's a recipe to win, especially on the defensive side.
Yeah. I think what's so interesting about this matchup is the fact that the Patriots are just like, I think part of the reason like they're interesting to me is just because they do not have really a number one threat at any position. Like, Stephon Diggs has had his moments, Kayshon Boutte's had his moments, Hunter Henry's had his moments, Ramondre Stevenson had his moments, Travion Henderson has his moments. Like, there's not a number one at any of these positions. And I think it makes it a bit of a challenge because you know that the Patriots are going to spread out the ball. They're not targeting one guy, but that means you really have to key in, or like you can't key in on one guy. You have to play a balanced defense. And I think that to the Seahawks' credit and advantage here, honestly, is they have the players to do that. You have two really solid outside corners in Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen. You have good safeties in Kobe Bryant, Julian Love. You have like a really, really solid nickel who's really stepped up in the playoffs as well in Nick Eamon-Wari. You have Ernest Jones at that linebacker position. Like, I think that Seattle's versatility matches up exceptionally well with the Patriots' versatility, and I think that that's going to be the key to this defense is just like letting your players make plays. I don't think you need to necessarily game plan for one specific player, but just always have your best 11 guys out there on every single play. And I think that Seattle can play that game the same way the Patriots can offensively. And I think that that's going to be the key to Seattle winning this because I think that like Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen, I think, win those matchups against the Patriots receivers on a skill level. I think Ernest Jones wins that matchup against the running backs or the tight end and Hunter Henry. I think Eamon-Wari wins the matchup against some of these receivers as well in a Kayshon Boutte or Demario Douglas or something like that. So I think Seattle's the fact that Seattle's so versatile means almost there is no game plan. The game plan is just play your best football. And it's one more game. Just do what you need to do in this contest. So I think that like it really just comes down to the amount of high level guys that Seattle has in this defense.
Their defense is so scary.
I know, man. It's insane. It's encouraging. It feels like it's like a nice like safety blanket at the end of the day. Last question here for Seattle before we move on to New England. How critical is the special teams units for Seattle going to be in this game?
It's going to be so huge, and I think both teams do extremely well in special teams. Mike Vrabel prides himself, and then you bring in Rashid Shaheed, and he was supposed to be the wide receiver too, but now he's the best punt returner in all of football, and like you need another big play, another punt and kick return from Rashid Shaheed specifically, just because like this is going to be such a defensive game. It is going to drag. It's going to remind me of the Patriots and the Rams when they suited up. Like, there's not going to be a lot of points, and it's going to be a battle of the field position. So how can you flip the field so that you are winning the field position battle? It's not about like points or anything or turnovers like that. It's going to be about field position number one, and I think Seattle matches up better than New England does just because they have Shaheed as that weapon. So you break off a 30, 40, 50-yard punt return, you are probably winning this game because points are going to be at a premium and yards are going to even be more at a premium. So I think Shaheed has to take over in the special teams game. I think if he can just break out one play like Kadarius Toney did in the Super Bowl against the 49ers, like I think it's going to be the deciding factor where, yeah, you are making that big-time play. So I think Shaheed is an extreme X factor, and if he can break off one run, the Super Bowl is theirs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, you've seen how critical special teams has been in the last two playoff wins for Seattle here. I mean, in the 49ers game, I guess arguable just because it did end up being such a blowout. But at the same time, that opening score was a kick return, and it kind of just opened the floodgates. And I think it put Seattle in the driver's seat right out of the gate. And then, I mean, it's hard to say that this was really a credit to the Seahawks, but they recover the fumble on that muffed punt by the Rams in the NFC Championship, and they get a short field. They really got the momentum back, I thought, in the second half because they fizzled out on their opening drive, and then you get the ball back immediately, score a touchdown, and go up by like 14 points or 10 points or something. So, like, special teams have been critical in both wins, and I agree that it's just going to be another one of those games where Shaheed getting the ball like just down the field, adding yards on those returns is going to be huge. I think that Michael Dixon as well, like you said, that field position game, getting those balls like within inside the 20 on those punts. Even Jason Myers, I think, will be huge in this one as well. Just probably having to make some tough field goals in this game. So it's gonna be like it's just one of those aspects of the game that's under talked about, I think, for the most part. But we've seen it in Seattle's run to the Super Bowl here, how critical it's been for them in different ways. So I think that again, it's just one of those things that makes them such a good team is the fact that all three levels or all three aspects of the game fire at such a high level. So I think again, it's going to be another one of those games where they're going to need that to show up and just play to the standard that they expect to win the game. All right. Let's move on to the Patriots. We've got some questions for them as well. Can the Patriots' rushing attack overcome Seattle's tough run defense? Because they have been, outside of a few big plays, I would say this season, this Patriots run game has been pretty abysmal. And we can go back even just to the three playoff games, and they have done virtually nothing.
Yeah, no. Nothing's going to happen with the run game for the Patriots, like, at all. Like, they've gone up against three incredible defenses in the playoffs, and they're going up against probably a defense that is better than all three of those defenses that they've.
Except maybe the Texans.
Maybe the Texans, yeah, you're right. But, like, Seattle is just so tough, especially up the middle. Like, the Patriots have been so inconsistent running the football with their cupcake regular season schedule, people want to say, and it's, like, shown itself in the playoffs, and I think it's going to continue to show itself. And the Patriots, like, to me, are not going to get anything going running the ball. I think they're too good on the edges for them to not break contain, and I think Travion Henderson is going to get completely shut down, and they're going to shy away from the run game. So it's going to be all on Drake May, and we'll see if he can perform because he is not going to get help from any other running backs.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, Seattle this entire season, I don't think, has really allowed anyone to have a huge game against them right now. I mean, I'm just looking back here. McCaffrey had a 69 yards. Jalen Warren had 48 yards. Like, there's nothing. They allowed a total of 1,200 rushing yards across 17 games. Like, they're such a good run team, and it does like no team has really figured it out, and it just doesn't feel like the Patriots are that team either because they have not been able to figure out the run game for a good 70% of the season. In the last three games, especially, like they cannot run the football, and I think that's one of their huge flaws going into this game is they're just not balanced offensively, and I think that in a game like the Super Bowl where you're playing a top opponent, it's really hard to win and score points when you are so unbalanced. And like it seems like Travion Henderson has given them the most juice this season, yet they refuse to play him. I mean, obviously he had a concussion and got hurt, but even when he's been healthy the last month and a bit, he just hasn't been played. Ramondre Stevenson, I feel like, is like Mr. Steady for the most part. He does have issues with fumbles, but he doesn't give you those explosives like Henderson. But those explosives are incredibly hard to come by against Seattle, and I just don't know how that happens because, like you said, I mean, that defensive line, especially up the middle with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, is really tough to get any leverage on. And then on the edge, you have a guy like Demarcus Lawrence, who's a great run defender. He's long, he's physical, he's a veteran. He knows how to like maintain his position, maintain his leverage, and then you have guys in the secondary and the second level, like an Ernest Jones, who come flying downhill. Drake Thomas, I thought, has played really well. So like I don't know where like how they are able to run the ball because again, or another thing is just the Patriots offensive line too. Like it's been solid, but you are also relying heavily on rookies in Will Campbell and Jared Wilson in the biggest stage here. So I think that it's just going to be really tough sledding running the football in this game. And I think that you're really going to have to rely on Drake May in that passing game to get anything going. Now, Drake May is another story where I think that he could give them a spark in that rushing game because I'm pretty sure Seattle's one of the worst teams or a bit more susceptible to quarterback rushes. So if Drake May can get it going on the ground, that could be a bit of an advantage for the Patriots. Next question. Will Drake May be able to cool it on the turnovers? We've seen him turn the ball over and just lose the ball. I mean, the Texans game he didn't actually turn the ball over as much, but he fumbled 5 times in that game. Can he control the turnovers a bit here against a very opportunistic Seahawks defense?
Is it crazy to say that I don't want him to cool it on the turnovers? And here's my thing. Like, I know it's crazy to say, but like that last game against Denver, he was so conservative and he was too conservative. And I understand that Denver has an incredible secondary, but like it's almost like he came from those last two playoff games. It's like, you know what? My number one goal is to not turn the football over. To me, you don't play to lose, you play to win. Or to me, you don't play to not lose, you play to win. And I feel like Drake May was playing to not lose that football game, and he didn't. But like you have to take shots against Seattle because if you are just gonna dump it off and trying to run the play, Seattle is gonna take off so momentum. They have beasts in Nick Emenwari and Devin Witherspoon. If you hit a 2-yard drag to Stephon Diggs, they are popping him instantly, and it's just gonna get the boys hyped. You're going to punt the football and you're going to give it to Rashid Shaheed, and then they're going to win the field position battle. Say screw it. If you have time, which is the number one caveat to this take, if you have time, you take those deep shots to Kayshon Boutte and Williams, and if it's a pick, then it's on Seattle's 30-yard line, and you say you move on to the next play, and it's fine. But you have to take those shots because if you take those shots where points are going to be at a premium, you are going to outshine Sam Darnold, and you are going to move that football down the field better than what Sam Darnold can do. So to me, like, play not to cool off the turnovers, play to win, play to take the deep shot. Now, obviously, Seattle is going to bring the house on these plays with 6 guys, and it's going to be very tough for Drake May to have time to go deep down the field. But if he does, you take your shot every single time. You do not play to try and cool off the turnovers. You play and try and take those deep shots, and if it's an interception, it's an interception. Who cares? You move on to the next play. So I don't think he should play to not cool off the turnovers. Now, obviously, a sack fumble is huge in this game, but like an interception where it's 50 yards down the field, you take that shot in hopes that your guy can catch it, and that will shift the entire game.
Never heard you say that about Josh Allen, man. just go for the deep shot. I think he's gonna have to. I think is the biggest thing because the Texans, they get those turnovers, but their offense, and I mean specifically even in that game, was so incompetent that it didn't matter. But I think that there's a lot of other teams where, and I say in the Chargers game too, where it's just the defense makes these plays, but both of these offenses, for different reasons, are not firing on all cylinders, and they weren't able to capitalize on it. But Seattle's a team who's going to capitalize on those turnovers, and I think that May just has to play cleaner football, and that's not necessarily saying don't take shots, don't like move the ball down the field, but be smart about it and like make the play. Like don't be underthrowing, don't be like running around holding the ball in one hand, like take care of the football. Like you need possession. You can't give Seattle short fields. You can't give Seattle extra possessions, I think, in this game. And I mean, it falls on Drake May because I mean we talked about the run game. We don't feel like it's going to be effective, and then if it's all on Drake May, he cannot make these mistakes because Seattle's a team where they haven't really seen it yet, even in the Broncos game, just because they had Jarrett Stidham, where they're going to capitalize on your mistakes, and that's going to be the end of your chances in this game.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here. How can the Patriots defense force Sam Darnold to make mistakes? We just talked about Drake May not making mistakes, but how can this defense force Darnold to make mistakes?
Rush him in the pocket. I feel like you have to get pressure with four and then just completely blanket the rest of the wide receivers. I feel like Sam Darnold, and it's a tribute to the offensive line, specifically Charles Cross. He's incredible in the pass protection game, but like Sam Darnold never really looks rushed in the pocket, and it just gives him time to dissect the defense. So if you can get pressure with four and then completely blanket these wide receivers, I think you can create a lot of turnovers. We've seen it throughout Sam Darnold's career where if he's rattled and if he's blitzed a little bit, he doesn't really know what to do. So if you can find ways to get exotic blitzes at key moments in the football game and you can rush for the rest of the way and find success with that, I think it's going to be huge. It's easier said than done because the Seattle's offensive line has improved extremely just from like a year ago where they were one of the worst units in football. Now they're an elite unit in my opinion. So it's going to be very, very tough. But if they can rattle Sam Darnold and get pressure on him, I think the turnovers will naturally come. We've seen it throughout his entire career, and I think that should be the recipe for Mike Vrabel and his defense.
Yeah, I think specifically pressure up the middle. Those two guys, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, have got to break through that offensive line and get to Darnold up the middle because, like you said, I mean, in that NFC Championship game, Darnold was great under pressure, but historically throughout his career, he is not good. And I mean, even those Rams games, he got pressured. The other Rams games during the regular season, he got pressured and he made mistakes. And I think that the Patriots need the Seattle offense to make mistakes here because they're, I think, a team who is going to have to take advantage of some short fields in order to win this game. And like Sam Darnold is, I think, target number one if you're looking to get turnovers. So I think it's getting Sam Darnold rushed, not letting him go through his process. And the best way to do that is up the middle. And you have two guys who have been great at getting pressure up the middle this season. So you've got to rely on Barmore. You've got to rely on Milton Williams to get through those A gaps and get pressure right in Darnold's face. Make him get rid of the ball early. Make him roll out of the pocket and make some sort of mistake, whether that's a sack, whether that's an interception, like whatever it is, you have to get him just antsy in the pocket. And I think that you need to do that early in the game. All right, final question. The Patriots, according to Bet365 odds, are 4.5 point underdogs in this game. Is that are they that much of an underdog, Joseph, to you?
No, they're not at all. And to me, the way both these defenses are playing, I think they're equal, and I think they cancel each other out. And I understand Seattle has such an elite unit, but the Patriots have all the momentum in the world. They got Mike Vrabel on their side, and I think they match up almost equally as well to Seattle. I think Seattle's slightly better, but not to the point where it's going to sway this game 4.5 points. So I think both teams will be shut down in the rushing attack. I think both teams will not be able to move the football, and it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I don't think this is going to be a blowout within the second half where we're not watching it. This is going to be a close game, and it's going to come down to the absolute wire. So I think 4.5 is a little disrespectful. I understand that Seattle has more of the names at the skill positions, but like I think these two teams are so equally matched. It's going to be such a fun matchup, and it should not be this much of an underdog for the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, I do think Seattle's the better team, but like at the same time, New England has basically beat every single challenge that's been put in front of them at this point. So it's tough to count them out at this point just based on their like resume this season. Obviously, the regular season was pretty much a cupcake. They didn't really play anyone of any significance, but at the same time, you beat a lot of good teams in the playoffs, especially the Broncos and the Texans. Like in my opinion, the Chargers as well were a very good team. So I don't want to count them out in this game, and I feel like 4.5 is counting them out in a lot of ways. And I really do think it is going to be a close game. I mean, for my sake, I hope it's an absolute blowout just so I'm not stressing. But I do feel like the Patriots are going to come to play, and it's going to be a hard fought game. And obviously, Seattle can score a touchdown at the end of the game, and it's a 7 point game. But I think that in spirit, a 4.5 point underdog means you're a touchdown away from winning, and like that's pretty significant. Like you're not going to keep this game close versus Like, I don't know. I think that it's honestly going to be a 2 or 3 point game when it comes down to it. And I'm excited for that. It's a great matchup, and I'm very much looking forward to it,
Mhm.
Joseph. The next thing we're going to do here is our X Factors. We've got one X Factor for each team, Joseph. So why don't you kick it off with your Seahawks X Factor?
All right, I'm going Gray Zapel, rookie offensive guard that not a lot of people are going to talk about, but to me, he is huge into what Seattle wants to do. I feel like he's has to get rush blocking proper against Christian Barmore and Milton Williams. He has to be stout in his approach and just make sure the A and B gaps are open sometimes, and then he has to be a pulling guard, be a pulling force so that Kenneth Walker can hit the C gap properly and just use that burst of speed. And he has to be good in the screen game as well. He has to pull and he has to block 5, 6, 7, 8 yards down the field and just be an absolute tyrant. So to me, Gray Zabel is the key to what they want to do offensively, and he has to execute and play at such an elite level in order for them to reach their full potential. And so if they can run the football properly, I think they absolutely dominate the Patriots, and that's why I think it all starts with Gray Zabel. And if he can play at a proper level, especially in the rushing attack, pulling and hitting the A and B gaps, this should be a win for Seattle. So Gray Zabel has to have an elite game, and if he does, I think they win the Super Bowl.
I like it. It is huge because, like we talked about, those interior linemen for the Patriots are their best defensive players outside of probably Christian Gonzalez. So they got to step up. For me, I've got Reek Woolen here. I think that for a couple of reasons. Number one, you cannot be doing those knucklehead kind of things that you were doing against the Rams in the NFC Championship. I mean, it truly almost cost your team the game. And I mean, it rattled you and you gave up a touchdown after it. So you got to be level headed. You got to stick to your game. And I think that the other thing is Devin Witherspoon is going to be just win whatever matchup I think he's going to get on that side. I think he'll be on Stephon Diggs a lot, Kayshon Boutte, but Tariq Woolen has to be that guy on the other side of the field that's not giving up yards because I mean, you just if you're the one who's giving up yards, they're going to be able to move the football. And I think that getting those guys like Witherspoon, I feel like you're reliable, but Tariq Woolen's such an up and down player where one mistake could really cost Seattle a ton of points here, and I could be the swing in the game. So I think Woolen needs to stay focused. He needs to be level headed, and he needs to shut down that other side of the field that Witherspoon is not on in this game. And I mean, obviously, I think that he has the tools to match up really well with any of these Patriots receivers, but he's got to show it on the field in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Reek Woolen to me is their weakest link, especially on that secondary, and he's going to get so many targets because of it. And you saw in that Rams game how many yards he gave up, especially to Devontae Adams in the second half. So Drake May's going to try and take his shots, and it'll probably be against Woolen, so he has to step up.
Exactly. Who's your Patriots X Factor?
Mine is Christian Gonzalez. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, but to me, like Jackson Smith and Jigba is their only source of offense. They cannot play zone. I was so mad at the Rams for playing zone against Njigba because he's just going to dissect any zone that presents itself. And I mean, honestly, JSN is such a good wide receiver that he can win in man to man coverage. So you cannot allow him to do that if you're Christian Gonzalez. If you take away JSN, I think to me, you win this football game because I don't think the the Seahawks will do as much rushing the football as they have in the last 2 weeks. So when Darnold is looking for Njigba, you have to blanket him. To me, if I'm Vrabel, I'm sending a double team every single time. But Gonzalez is such an elite corner where he almost doesn't need that double team, and I think he can do it solely against JSN, which is a tall task. But Christian Gonzalez to me is a top 5 corner in the NFL. He's played up to it this season, so he has to be massive because if he does that, he has Carlton Davis on the other side. And as much as I hate Carlton Davis, I think he's better than the wide receiver 2 that Seattle's presenting. So I'm taking Christian Gonzalez. You need to be that X factor. You need to take away the number one source of offense, which is JSN.
I totally agree. I mean, if Darnold can't get the ball to JSN, it just makes it that much harder for Seattle to move the ball down the field, especially in the pass game, because, yeah, like you said, there's not a lot of high level options or like no brainer options for Darnold to go with the football if JSN is not involved in that passing game. And I mean, I think that also if JSN gets involved, you're starting to have to devote more resources to cover him, bracket him, things like that. And that just opens up even more space for these other guys in Seattle. So, yeah, he's going to be huge in this game. I think he'll be shadowing JSN for a good chunk of the night. For me, I've got Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson just because there's not a number one running back to this team, but those guys and just the running game in general has to step up in this game. You cannot put it all on Drake May's shoulders. And I know that Drake May is a guy who played at an MVP level this season and really can hang with the best of them. But at the same time, I think that to truly be competitive in this game, you need balance because if you're asking Drake May to make throws into 7 guys dropping back, it's just so difficult. You need that run game to put Seattle on their heels defensively because that defensive unit is ferocious and they will take advantage of these kind of situations where they have the leverage. And I think that getting rid of that leverage by being able to run the football and making some plays and getting some yards on the ground is just going to make Drake May's life that much easier and give the Patriots that much more of an opportunity to move the ball down the field.
Yeah, when the Patriots are successful running the football, they look like one of the best offenses in the league, but it's so rare that you just haven't seen it yet. So you attribute all of it to
Only
Drake
against
May.
the Jets.
Yeah, and I mean that last game against the Dolphins, Stevenson went crazy, and I know it's the last game, but like you just see what happens when they start breaking out these big time runs. It opens up everything, so they have to run the football. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. And last but not least, our predictions, Joseph. I need 3 things from you. I'm putting you on
Okay.
the spot here. I just thought of this, but we didn't do it. I want winner, Super Bowl MVP, score. I guess winner, score, Super Bowl MVP.
Okay. I'm going with the Patriots. I'm sorry. And I'm going 16-13 and Drake May as the MVP. I think these two teams are so evenly matched in what they want to do. I don't think either team will run the football effectively. I don't think either team will move the football effectively. I think there's going to be a couple drives, but they're going to get fallen short with a couple field goals. That's why I think it's 16-13. But when it's fourth quarter time, to me, like when both of these teams are such evenly matched, I look at the quarterbacks and I just trust Drake May a little bit more. I think both quarterbacks will turn the football over early in this game. Will utilize, number one, his legs, especially up the middle, running that football effectively. It's going to change the trajectory of the fourth quarter. And then a couple deep shots that I think will ice the game. So to me, I think the Patriots are like very evenly matched to the Seahawks. I think Seattle's slightly better talent-wise, but I don't think it's enough to push the needle. And I think because the quarterback is so important, I'm going with the quarterback. And to me, Drake May being the MVP, like I think it's going to be such a defensive game. You're not going to know who to pick for MVP. So you just automatically give it to the quarterback.
Classic.
That's what it's been the last like 5 years, basically. So I'm taking him as the MVP. And I know I would not be shocked if Seattle wins this game, but I just think that I trust Drake May a little bit more, and that's why I'm going with the Patriots.
I like it. I've got Seattle, obviously. I mean, Joseph, you've picked against Seattle every single time, pretty much. I think every single game
Yeah.
this season. So,
Yep.
and especially the playoffs. But again, I mean, they're going to overcome your doubt. And I mean, 2 things. Number one, I just think Seattle is better on both sides of the ball than this Patriots team. They're more balanced offensively than the Patriots, especially right now. They're running the football better. They're passing the football just as good as the Patriots. And then defensively, like I talked about that versatility for both of these teams. The Patriots offense versus Seattle defense, but the Seahawks just win those matchups across the board, in my opinion. And I think that they're going to be able to get pressure up front. They're going to be able to stop the run. They're going to be able to get pass breakups, make plays in the secondary. And I just think that the Patriots, more than Seattle, are going to struggle to move the football in this game. And I trust Seattle to take advantage of some of these plays that maybe these other teams haven't because, I mean, Drake May has been a little careless with the football. He's given the football back to the other team, and like no one has really been able to take advantage of it so far. And I think that this feels like the team in Seattle who can really take advantage of what Drake May has given the like opposing teams in the past here and capitalize on those mistakes. So I feel really good about Seattle. Maybe I'm a little overconfident in this team, but at the same time, it's my guys. I can't not pick my favorite team to win the Super Bowl here. and I think they do have a really good shot. So 27-21 final score. I know I did say it was a close game, but I do just feel that they're going to pull away at the last second here, the victory. And I'm going Sam Darnold as MVP. I can't really decide between him and JSN because I feel like if Darnold has a big game, JSN's going to have a big game. But then at that point, they're probably going to give it to Darnold.
Yeah.
And I think that the storyline's just there, right? Like he has been through so much in his NFL career, and I feel like the voters are really going to take that into account. He's a guy who's really liked across the league, and I think that people really love his underdog story and just kind of the ups and downs that his career's taken. So I think Sam Darnold wins Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah. I like for the last couple of years now I've said Seattle's had like a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender, but now like I did not think in a million years Sam Darnold was going to be that quarterback for them.
No,
So
me neither.
good.
You thought
good
Dak
for them.
Prescott.
Yeah, I thought Dak Prescott for a while, but it's gonna be really cool to see Sam Darnold on the big stage. I think he's had an incredible college career and had an incredible resurgence. So I want to see what he matches up well against Drake May. But I'm taking May, and I wanted some continuity in the show. You know, take the Patriots, make it interesting for the fans. But I would be very happy if Seattle won as well. They've been an incredible story.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride this season. I mean, yeah, you really just no one I don't think anyone really expected Seattle to be that much of a contender when you have the 49ers and the Rams in that division, and they were the best in their division. They're the best in the NFC, and hopefully they'll show that they're the best in the NFL by the end of Sunday night. So I'm thrilled. I cannot wait. And yeah, we will be back after the game. Joseph, before we get out of here, what's the Gatorade color are we going with?
Light blue. Both
Light
teams
blue.
are. Both teams have the blue in them. So
Blue is
I'll keep
objectively
it.
the best flavor of Gatorade
It
as
is.
well.
What do you think it is?
I'm gonna go. I don't know. Purple. Purple always strikes me. It's the Gatorade Zero. You know.
Yeah.
People love these diet, sugar-free kind of drinks these days. I could see it being the purple Gatorade, even though it's not that good, in my opinion. But yes, that does it for the Super Bowl preview. We will be back in 1 week to recap the Super Bowl. Barring, I don't even know what. Who knows what might happen if Seattle wins? But I'll try my best to be here. I'll just be. Who knows? Who knows what'll happen? But very exciting. I can't wait. And yeah, we will talk to you next week. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at BallWatchersPod. And we stream every episode live on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe to us over there at Ball Watchers. So that does it for us. Stay up, Ball Watchers.